This spiritual was well known when first published in 1861, a song of liberation for Africans living in slavery in the United States. It was reported to have been sung over and over again on the eve of the Emancipation Proclamation in January 1863. Please join us.
Good morning and welcome to worship on this Sunday, August 23rd, as Methodists across the Gallatin Valley. I'm Allison Skillman and I serve as the pastor to Living Waters United Methodist Church. We want you to know everyone is welcome to worship with us. Our services, ministries, and buildings are open to all. Well, not quite open, but we believe in a church for all people.
And I'm Reverend Amy Strader, lead pastor for congregational and community engagement. We want to remind you that Wednesday evenings during the month of August, we are having open air prayer services. This week, we meet at Christus Collegium at 7 p.m.
And I'm Reverend Eric Strader, lead pastor for worship and administration here at Bozeman UMC. We continue the Exodus story today with the Israelites waiting at the Red Sea to cross while the Egyptians bear down on them. They face death at both sides, and so they turn to Moses and really God, asking for deliverance. We face foes at every aspect of our lives, some that are deadly, some that are just frightening. Where will you find faith to leave what binds you from God as you cross the Red Sea? Let us worship God this morning, finding hope in the midst of life.
Samuel Stennett was a nonconformist minister in 18th century England, meaning he refused to join the Church of England. Stennett wrote about the Promised Land as a reminder of all we strive for in living.
On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye to Canaan's fair and happy land, where my
when I start to write something, I find that looking up the words often helps me to clarify what I want to say about it. Today's crisis value is feel all the feels. And shockingly, the word feels does not appear in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It does, however, appear in dictionary.com's slang dictionary. Feel all the feels. Cute puppy dogs, a bad breakup, some really good pizza. These things give us all the feels. The slang term describes an overwhelming emotional reaction, often with a humorous tone. Related words, loud, crying face, emoji. While the origin of the word may have a humorous tone, our usage of it takes from a warm and fuzzy place to a place of true, genuine, uncensored emotion. Over the last several weeks, I've talked with several church members who seem to feel bad about their feelings. I get it. Really, I do. I get that many of us were told from a very early age to hold in our emotions. Boys don't cry, and girls don't get mad, right? We may only recently be wearing real masks for protection, but many of us have worn emotional masks, hiding how we truly feel for a long time. Avoiding physical pain is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and I have to wonder if the impacts on our ability to deal with emotional pain as well. So here are some tangible ways to feel all the feels. Cry. I've been known to do something to make myself cry because I knew that I would feel better afterwards. And I know it's not just me because I mentioned this to Jana Lauver once and she said, "Oh yeah, sometimes you have to break the dam." I've never been able to find the source, but I heard once that crying is the truest form of prayer. In the book of Psalms, David says that God keeps our tears in a bottle so that our sorrows are not forgotten. I know that some people don't feel the need to cry, but if you do, let the tears flow. I mean, I know it wasn't originally about tears, but the great philosopher Shrek says, "Better out than in," and it certainly applies here as well. Next, express your anger in healthy ways. I've been known to yell when I'm alone in my car. I know that we've been conditioned to believe that something like yelling in your car is at best weird and at worst means that something is wrong with you. But if you think about it, the sounds of screaming and the muscle constrictions that come with it, now think about if all of that was still inside of you and you've been holding on to all of that anger. Ecclesiastes 7:9 says, "Don't be too quick to get angry, because anger lives in the fool's heart." I can certainly see why verses like this and others like them have led us to a place where we believe that Christians shouldn't get angry. To me, anger only lives in the fool's heart when we hold on to it, when it festers, when we act like nothing is wrong. I know many of us yell at our loved ones more than we would like as a means to express our anger. Think about how it might feel to get all of that out by throwing soft objects at the basement wall or breaking clay pots in a field instead. Talk about a family bonding moment. We can also feel all the positive feels too. Recently, I spent some time by myself at Canyon Ferry Lake, and later the kids and Eric came up and joined me. Several times I found myself really feeling all the feels, letting it soak in. I made yummy food, I let the sun brush against my skin, I let my heart grow every time my son giggled. A beautiful setting is not needed to feel all the feels though. I saw a member of the church yesterday sitting outside under her tree reading a book and just taking it all in. I didn't talk to her about it specifically, but the vibe that she was putting out told me that even though there is bad all around, she was allowing herself to feel the feels of the good about the things that she could. The opposite of mental health is mental illness, a term typically reserved for mental health disorders such as severe depression or anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, or addictive behavior. But I think it's also a helpful frame as we think about taking care of ourselves during crisis moments. If we think about times of high stress as a time of being sick, then feeling all the feels, letting it out, letting the little things whisk you away to a joyful place, then that is a good way to make you well. The church emergency number is 406-333-1856 because your mental health matters.
Breath of God, breath of peace, breath of love, breath of life, breath of justice, breath of passion, breath creating, breath of healing, breath of singing, breath of praying. Come upon us, come restore us, come inspire us, breath of God.
We come to our time of prayer, a time of contemplation, and a time where we are open to bringing our joys and concerns to God. If you have a prayer request you would like to be lifted up this day, please type them in the comments and we will make sure to read your prayers to the congregation next week. After each prayer, I will say, Lord, in your mercy, and your response will be, hear our prayers. We have continuing prayers for Shelly Beatty's sister, Nancy, who was recently diagnosed with colon cancer, and she had surgery on Thursday. Prayers of healing and prayers for the medical professionals that will help her through this journey. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Prayers for baptism anniversaries. 22 years ago, last Sunday, Mari and Coulter were baptized in this very sanctuary. What a celebration it is to remember our baptisms. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Prayers for the students of our college campuses. We particularly lift up those at Montana State University, the students and the faculty, that they will stay safe and also receive the education they desire. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Prayers for those who are struggling with mental health diagnoses, especially when we are in this time of isolation, making it even more challenging. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. We have a joy for a successful rummage sale put on by our campus ministry and a prayer of gratitude for all of you who donated your items to help the campus ministry raise funds for their program. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. We have a prayer of joy for Sue and Jarvis Brown, who celebrated their 61st wedding anniversary last week. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. We lift up those in the Living Waters and Bozeman UMC communities suffering from severe illnesses. Prayers for healing and comfort. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. We hear your prayers. This community is here for you to hold these prayers and surround you in love through the joys and sorrows of life. Hear our prayers this day, O God. Every week we will be invited to participate in a different prayer practice, and prayer practices are an invitation. And if you prefer to just be in stillness with God, that's okay. Our prayer practice this week focuses on conversations with God. One of my favorite prayer practices is writing and journaling. I invite you to grab your journal if you have one, or just a piece of paper and a writing utensil. We will take a moment to prepare for our conversation with God. As you begin to write, use these prompts. Start with a greeting to God. Say, "Dear God," "Gracious God," or "Loving God." Then tell God what is on your heart or on your soul. Then move into what do you need from God. It's okay to ask God for what you need. Finally, give thanks to God. Express gratitude that you have for today. What are you feeling grateful for this day? Continue focusing on your conversation with God as we enter into a moment of stillness. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the simple gift of conversation. As we continue conversation with you, we feel your presence in and around us every day. There will always be a time of hardship and questioning, and there will always be a time of love and acceptance. Even in these moments where we feel like the world is crashing down around us and it's hard to see solutions, we are reminded to go back to you, to be thankful for the ability to talk to you and to lean on you. We give thanks and praise to you, O God, for this gift. When you brought Jesus into the world, he spent so much time in contemplative prayer and in conversation with you. He taught the disciples a prayer that reminded them to be thankful for the simple gifts God has given us. We pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
There are many ways you can contribute to the ministries here at Bozeman United Methodist Church alongside our partners at Living Waters United Methodist Church. The giving information is on your screen. You can send your checks into the church, you can give through our online giving portal, or you can text to give. We know that ministry is going to happen this fall. We know it's going to look completely different. And so this video from our children's ministry coordinator, Abby Thompson, really shows you the ways children's ministry is going to look. And we hope you use it as an opportunity to engage further this fall.
Hey everybody, my name is Abby Thompson and I am the Children's Ministry Coordinator here at BUMC, working with all of the Methodists here in Gallatin Valley. And we have an exciting fall planned for our young people. Here at BUMC and Living Waters, we are focusing on creating a space where families can grow and build their faith together. And so the first thing that we're going to be doing is in the next couple weeks, you'll be getting a surprise packet on your doorstep for your little people. This will have a Sunday school opportunity, a mental health moment, tangible spiritual practices that you can do as a whole family or your little ones can do by themselves. It's easy, it's accessible. All the tools you need will be in the surprise packets, and you'll get one every month from now till December for sure. On Sunday, August 30th, we're going to be having a back to school blessing and bash full of prizes and food and games and exciting opportunities to have our young people feel blessed and ready to go back to school. So bring your backpacks, your school supplies, a mask, and you will be blessed by Pastor Allison and Pastor Amy, and we will have a goodie bag full of back to school tools for your young people. If you come from 12 to 2 on the Olive Street doors at BUMC, we will have ice cream and some fun games for people to play outside, socially distanced. And if you come to the Living Waters lawn from 4 to 6, we will have water games, we will have hot dogs, we will have s'mores, we will have lots of goodies and lots of fun. In the coming months for fall, we're going to be offering some Sunday school type opportunities for families every Wednesday and Sunday. And those will look in different forms, and they will be in different locations. We'll do different activities, both together with our BUMC and Living Waters family. So keep an eye out for those. When we have more information, we will pass it along to you. Either way, we're going to have an amazing fall, amazing winter, and we are so excited to be doing ministry together. Bye.
When the waters of our mother broke and the world first came to be, it was in that instant God done spoke and said, "Walk across the water to me. Walk across the water. Walk across the water. Let your faith run free on the raging sea, and walk across the water to me." On the day we came to be baptized by the word in the water free, Jesus looked into our wandering eyes and said, "Walk across the water to me. Walk across the water. Walk across the water. Let your faith run free on the raging sea, and walk across the water to me." And when Israel fled from Egypt's land, they were chased up to the sea. Moses God said, "Take them by the hand and walk across the water to me. Walk across the water. Walk across the water. Let your faith run free on the raging sea, and walk across the water to me." Is that my Lord a-walking on the Sea of Galilee? Jesus says, "If your faith be more than talk, then walk across the water to me. Walk across the water. Walk across the water. Let your faith run free on the raging sea, and walk across the water to me."
So I'm Caroline.
And I'm Jack.
And this is Jack, and welcome back to Time with Kids. So this week we're talking again about Moses, and we talked a little bit about Moses just a minute ago. What do you guys remember? Jack, you go first.
That Moses crossed a huge ocean.
That's right. Do you remember why he had to do that, Caroline?
Because he had a stick, he put it in the water, and the water got separated.
That's right. So Moses put his staff in the water, and the water went whoosh, and then they could all walk across the dry land. So I was wondering, how do you think Moses did that?
With God's house.
With God's help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, God definitely helped him, but I was thinking more like maybe there's a scientific explanation. So I thought we'd try a couple experiments today. Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first one, have you guys ever heard of water tension?
No,
Surface tension.
no.
So water is so strong and so cool that it can hold itself together for a really long time in a little drop. Like, have you ever seen, like, kind of when raindrops fall, that they're, you know, they're in a little drop form? So we're gonna put some water droplets on these coins and see how many we can get on there until the water breaks. Okay?
Okay.
So let's start with the penny. Are you ready?
Yep.
Let's count together.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, not 6. 6. Oh! Maybe 7?
Nope,
Kind of
6.
You think 6? Okay, 6 for the penny. And let's try the quarter. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2.
2.
Oh, the straw doesn't hold very much water. 3,
3,
4,
5,
5, 6. Oh, 7.
7.
Ooh, look it. Can you get that? Can you see it down there?
Yeah.
It's got like a. It's like round at the top. 8,
8,
9, 10.
10.
Oh.
9. 10, 10. I think
job.
it's 10. I think it's 10.
So that's kind of crazy that the water holds itself together. So maybe that's why. Do you think the water was like spread out and it was
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah.
Do you think that could be it?
Then what I think why?
What?
Because sometimes water like splashes up.
Oh, so you think it was just a splash situation?
Yeah, maybe they put it in and then all the water like.
And
That's a good. That's a great
sink
guess.
or float. That means
We played sink or float with Remy and Roxy a couple weeks ago, and we guessed all the things that we're gonna sink or float, including pepper. But we're gonna do a different thing today with pepper. So here's another thought I had. Maybe. So this is what is this?
I don't know.
It's dish soap. Do you guys wash dishes at your house?
No.
Very honest answer, Jack. Great job. Do you wash dishes at your house, Caroline?
I hope.
You help sometimes. That's very nice of you. So what's funny is water and soap do not get along. They don't like each other. So whenever, that's like why when you wash your hands and all the stuff will come off and you can get it all off in the water. So we're gonna dump this pepper in here. And just
All of it?
maybe like a good chunk, but just to sprinkle it. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead, Jack. There you go. That's good. And we'll kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Maybe put a little bit more in there.
Okay.
Kind of like shake it a little bit. There you go. All right, now we're gonna try an experiment. Caroline, can you hand me your finger like this? Okay. Oops. And put some soap on your finger. Now rub it together like this. There you go. And when Jana says go, you're gonna stick your finger right in the middle like this.
Can do it.
And watch what happens.
Okay.
Ready, set, go.
Wow.
How did that happen?
How's my finger?
Let's try again. Put some more pepper in there. Let's let Caroline put the pepper in this time and you can stick your finger in. Jack.
Okay. Now don't do too much.
So you want to cover all of the surface so it's all over.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
There you go. All right, gotta get some soap on your finger. Okay. Rub your finger together like that. There you go.
Now?
Let's stick it in there. Oh,
Okay, now
gotta get
that
some more
one.
soap on there. Let's try again. There you go. Now do it.
I
You
don't
see,
know,
it
right?
worked a little bit.
Mhm.
But did you see how when we first put it in there, it flew to the sides? That's because the soap and the water don't get along so much. The water moved away from the soap real fast, and it took all the pepper with it. So I think that Moses had soap on the bottom of his stick. Do you think? And then the water just went.
Maybe.
Maybe.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Good job.
Today comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 14, 5 through 25. When Egypt's king was told that the people had run away, Pharaoh and his officials changed their mind about the people. They said, "What have we done, letting Israel go free from their slavery to us?" So he sent for his chariot and took his army with him. He took 600 elite chariots and all of Egypt's other chariots, with captains on all of them. The Lord made Pharaoh, Egypt's king, stubborn, and he chased the Israelites who were leaving confidently. The Egyptians, including all of Pharaoh's horse-drawn chariots, his cavalry, and his army, chased them and caught up with them as they were camped by the sea, by Phareth, in front of Baal-Shavan. As Pharaoh drew closer, the Israelites looked back and saw the Egyptians marching toward them. The Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Weren't there enough graves in Egypt that you took us away to die in the desert? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt like this? Didn't we tell you the same thing in Egypt? Leave us alone. Let us work for the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to work for the Egyptians than die in the desert." But Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand your ground and watch the Lord rescue today. The Egyptians you see today you will never ever see again. The Lord will fight for you. You just keep still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to get moving. As for you, lift your shepherd's rod, stretch your hand over the sea, and split it into two, so the Israelites can go into the sea on dry ground. But me, I'll make the Egyptians stubborn, so they will go in after them, and I'll gain honor at the expense of Pharaoh, all his army, his chariots, and his cavalry. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain honor at the expense of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his cavalry." God's messenger, who had been in front of Israel's camp, moved and went behind them. The column of cloud moved from the front and took its place behind them. It stood between Egypt's camp and Israel's camp. The cloud remained there, and when darkness fell, it lit up the night. They didn't come near each other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord pushed the sea back by a strong east wind all night, turning the sea into dry land. The waters were split into two. The Israelites walked into the sea on dry ground. The waters formed a wall for them on the right hand and on the left. The Egyptians chased them and went into the sea after them, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and cavalry. As the morning approached, the Lord looked down on the Egyptian camp from the column of lightning and cloud and threw the Egyptian camp into a panic. The Lord jammed their chariot wheels so they wouldn't turn easily. The Egyptians said, "Let's get away from these Israelites, because the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
It's easy to complain about the most despised people in America, the dreaded 5 p.m. telemarketer call. Our home phone has been ringing practically daily with political survey calls. Anyone else having this? Recently, Nora answered it, and the guy was so quick to get his spiel out before anyone hung up, she just handed the phone to Amy and said, "Some person talking really fast on the phone." Amy began to have a conversation with the guy when he asked her about her feelings related to someone named G.A. Fortune and someone named Bull Locke. Obviously, this guy was not from Montana. Amy politely corrected his pronunciation of the names and then made this statement about how it was a shame his company didn't train him better. The telemarketer honestly said, "Oh, they did. I just didn't listen." Now, this is the point in which I would just hung up and been done with it, but Amy has this ability to be connected to people in the moment, whether it's on the phone or it's in the grocery store checkout line. And she asked, how hard was it to get hung up on all day long? He said that didn't really bother him. What bothered him was how rude people were to him just before they hung the phone up. Think about the number of times you have hung up on a telemarketer. And I want you to imagine all of the jobs in the world. This is the job this guy could get. I mean, imagine a telemarketer job being the Red Sea crossing of hope that you are longing for. Imagine this is the job that would help you cross an empty sea into new life. And then imagine that some people complain and grumble about you calling, and others are rude and outright just mean to you. And imagine doing that for 5 days a week, eight hours a day. And imagine how 40 hours of rude, vile, mean people is still better than the alternative. Because the alternative is looking into someone's eyes who's going to bed hungry or choosing humiliating employment. What would your choice be? Have you ever stood at a Red Sea crossing and not seen any outcome that was hopeful? Maybe we should watch our complaining. Scientists say that an average person complains 30 times a day, and often one complaint doesn't yield one more, it yields 10 more. I think we're a society today that's caught up in complaining when we don't get our way or criticizing when we don't agree. Sometimes I wonder if we're getting to be a downright no good, whiny bunch of people. Who is it we want to be as a community? Who would want to be in community with us if we are a whiny bunch of people? When we think of the Red Sea crossing, I imagine that you're kind of like me and you can't help but see Charlton Heston in his flowing giant robes with his big beard slamming that staff to force the sea apart. We think of the Red Sea as this moment when millions of Hebrews crossed and left Egypt, crossed this dry land. We think of it as an act that began their journey to the land they were promised by God, but there's so many inconsistencies in the story. I mean, scholars first tried to explain the text in a couple of ways. Some say it was the Reed Sea and not the Red Sea. The Reed Sea is actually this swampy, muddy place of water, safe for people to get across, but would have sucked down the chariots and soldiers of Pharaoh's army. Second, Moses says there were 2 million people and they left Egypt in 2 hours. But think about it. 1,000 people wide, 2,000 people deep would take 2 hours to go half a mile. I don't know what happened 3,500 years ago, but I know that it is a moment that still gives us direction and hope when life feels unbearable and oppressive. We often focus on that crossing, the miracle of God, but I want to focus on the moment just before the sea parts, just before hope is restored. Because it's here the Hebrews are standing at the Red Sea, this impenetrable body of water on one side, and the other is the most powerful, mightiest army on the planet at that time. Hundreds of horses and chariots and spears are descending down on a collection of defenseless slaves, women, and children. Do you choose to fight without weapons or swim and drown in the sea? This is not a Patrick Henry moment. This is not a give me liberty or give me death moment. The people have to make a decision. Will they be people of faith and stand strong in God's promises? Nope. The people panic. And that panic turns to hostility at Moses, and they complain, and they're rude, and they're downright mean. How could you lead us here to die after we believed in you, after we trusted you, after the plagues? You led us here to die? What God is this that we are following? It's obvious we complain too much. But sometimes it seems complaining is the only way to actually get God's attention. The rabbis have this old midrash they tell about this part of the story when Moses puts his staff in the water and commands the sea to part. And instead of this dramatic split, the sea says, "Why should I listen to you? I was created on the 3rd day. You weren't created until the 6th. I, the sea, am obviously more important than you." And it was that moment that Moses complains to God, "Come on! You're the creator. Tell the sea to part." And the sea parts. Sometimes complaining gets God's attention. Sometimes complaining alleviates the pain and the hurt and the stresses of life. The difference is, are we complaining to free ourselves from the struggles of oppression, or are we complaining as a way to make ourselves feel better at the detriment of someone else? I want you to think about the recent school board decision and school start. There are many different opinions about what should have happened or what could happen. Did you call someone to complain about the decision? Did you complain to alleviate your suffering at having to choose between your child's education or having a job? Or did you complain because you disagreed or it was inconvenient? What was the root of your complaining? And frankly, were you nice about it? Were you appreciative of the school board and their willingness to serve? Or can they do no right in your eyes? They sat between an army of coronavirus on one side and the seas of disconnection and chaos on the other. It's the proverbial rock and a hard place. And it's okay to complain to God. Complain to God about the unfairness. the emotional anguish, the stress, the challenges. Complain to God about the ways the world is oppressive and unjust and wrong. But being critical of Moses doesn't really get you anywhere. What is Moses supposed to do when God leads him to lead the people to the sea and he places his stick in the water and nothing happens? That's not on Moses. If I was Moses, I would have turned to the people and I would have said, then you get in this water with me. Don't just stand up there. Moses, though, was faithful. Moses trusted God, and that's actually the story of all of Exodus. Will we trust God when we're consumed by multiple threats? Can we see God's promises even in our complaining? I mean, God didn't turn away from the people just because they complained. God found a way where no way existed. There's an old story, fable, about a man who joins a monastery. It's a silent monastery, and the man is only allowed to speak 2 words every year to the abbot in charge of the monastery. Naturally, they're expected to say something along the lines of Jesus loves, or grace abounds, or some other eternal truth. However, at the end of his first year, the man said bed hard, and at the end of his second year, he said food bad, and at the end of his third year, his 2 words were I quit. I'm not surprised, said the abbot. You've done nothing but complain ever since you came here. We all complain. We all get frustrated with processes and ideologies and differences. As Christians, though, I believe our call is to put more hope and love and kindness and joy into the world, especially for those who are standing on the Red Sea waiting for God to part the waters to something new. Is that how you're known? Is that the witness of the gospel others see in you? Is that what your Facebook demonstrates? Theodore Roosevelt said, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, in the water. The man who is marred by dust, the woman who's covered in sweat and blood, who errs, who comes up short again and again, but who strives to do the good deeds, who knows the great devotion, and who fails. But if they fail, at least they fail while daring greatly. Many in our community are facing a Red Sea crossing of life. They're stuck between 2 immovable boulders attempting to do their best. Are we going to complain about them? Or will we get into the middle of the sea with them? And when we face our own seas, our own crossings, one side a threat and the other the same threat, will we complain to God and then have faith? Or will we just complain? Amen.
Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you
week we're going to conclude the story of Exodus as the people enter into the promised land. But what happens to Moses? Does he get to join them? Are you going to stand on the edge of the bank and be a grumbler? Or are you going to get into the water and stand on faith with Moses? Don't worry, God will love you no matter where you stand, no matter how much you complain, and no matter what you believe. God is on the bank and in the river. Amen.